Welcome back to the Trust Issues Podcast. Today is a little bit of an off-the-cuff episode and a highly requested episode to share my latest birth with my son, Waylon, my second home birth, and really what went down, some of the twists and turns that my birth took. Holy cow, it was so different from my first birth. And also lots of unexpected things happened, which I can't wait to share with you. Maybe you are someone who is wanting to embark on your own home birth or natural birth. This will be insightful for you. Also, if you're just someone who has no interest in that, but you're just curious to hear my story, I am excited to share this with you. Welcome to the Trust Issues Podcast, the show where we question everything society tells us about how to live, work, eat, and be. I'm Erica Auckland, a mom, entrepreneur, and advocate for living life on your own terms. Here we challenge the status quo, from the food we feed our families to the way that we build wealth and well-being. You'll hear unfiltered conversations with everyone from farmers, financial experts, and everyday people who are doing life differently, all with one goal: to help you live healthier, freer, and more abundant. If you've ever felt like there's more to life than following the crowd, you're in the right place. Let's get into it. So I was due on July 31st with my second son. This time, unlike my first baby that I was pregnant with, my oldest, who was born in 2022, I knew the gender. With my first, I didn't know the gender. So that was really fun. But now knowing the gender, I just had a lot of just visuals of what it was going to be like and thinking about two boys. And I was just getting really, really excited. I felt so amazing during my pregnancy, really until the very end. I would say I was getting a little bit more uncomfortable when I had my first. I was just kind of expecting that. I was putting it out into the world that I was going to have a baby due on the 31st of July, but I was expecting August 7th. I don't know why. This was just the date in my head, and I was very okay with going a week out. And so when my due date came, it was something that I was feeling like, I went into my midwife. I was feeling like really good. Baby was looking healthy. Heartbeat was great. All the things. I was, monitored very well by my practitioners, my providers, throughout my whole pregnancy. So throughout my entire pregnancy, I was going to acupuncture. And this was such a game changer, I felt like, for my nervous system, for how relaxed I felt. It helped from everything from like earlier in the spring when I was dealing with seasonal allergies to sleep stuff. Like I felt like it helped me sleep so good pregnant. And that says a lot considering how big my belly got and just pregnancy in general, right? So at the end, when I was ready, feeling very ready, he was low. I was like, okay, I'm ready for this to happen whenever. I was going into acupuncture, and my practitioner knows all the like labor induction points. So she was doing all these labor induction points. And a couple times, she was saying, you're not there yet. You're not there yet. You're not there yet. And it's crazy how she can tell just from checking my pulse. Chinese medicine is so fascinating to me, by the way. I would love to have a Chinese practitioner on this show one day, just putting that out there if anyone knows of anyone. But I was so fascinated with just how she could tell by my pulse, how my body felt, where I was at. And it was the last time I went into acupuncture, she felt and she's like, yeah, you're ready. And sure enough, it was like 2 days later, I went into labor. It was a Sunday afternoon, August 4th. It was around 4:30. I started to feel a little crampy. I started to feel like something was happening, which I never had any contractions really beforehand. It was maybe some Braxton Hicks, but nothing crazy. I just completely felt normal one day, and then I started feeling crampy. So I started feeling crampy and I texted my midwife, and I was like, just letting you know, because they're like, your second born is notorious for coming so much faster, labor being so much quicker. And my labor with my first was 16 hours. So they said, as soon as you start to feel something, just let us know, put us on your radar, especially if it's over the weekend. I texted my doula. I also had a doula who only lived 10 minutes down the road. So just gave them a heads up that I was starting to feel a little crampy, like things were happening. Then I started contracting, and I started to feel contractions coming pretty regularly. I would say every 5 minutes, 4 minutes. And I just was like, I think this is happening. Like this is starting to feel like something, but I was just second guessing myself because it felt pretty gentle. And with my first, my contractions were so intense, really off the bat. So this was different in that they felt definitely like contractions, but not super intense where I couldn't handle it. So that's what was tripping me up. But still, my midwives were like, let us know. And then what kind of threw a flag up for everyone was the consistency of them. And my midwife always told me that if contractions started to get organized, then to let her know because that could mean something. So organized meaning pretty much every 3 to 4 minutes I was having a contraction that was lasting a minute long. So I text my team, they all show up, and I had specifically prayed because how it works with my providers is there's different midwives that are on rotation and you really don't know who you're going to get that week. And they do this to ensure that providers are all, they're all rested, everyone's working evenly, and it's like the best for the clients, for the mamas expecting. And I got the midwife. I had two midwives actually, and I got the midwife that I prayed for. She actually was present at my first birth, caught my first baby, and she shows up at my house, and I could have cried. I was so excited to have her there. And I also got my nurse. So there's also nurses that are with my midwifery company that I work with. Shout out to Haven in Franklin, Tennessee. And the same nurse that I had that was there with my firstborn was at my second birth. And I just literally felt like I was just on cloud nine. It felt like a party in my bedroom. If we're on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll have a photo pop up. And so you can see my room, my bedroom. I'm laying on my bed. And I have my doula, who she was also someone who's really special to me because she was a postpartum doula who helped us a lot with my firstborn, Dawson. She was actually the first person to come to our house after Dawson was born. She was a night doula, so she would spend the night and help me. I was having some breastfeeding issues, and so she would help me like pump and clean my parts and hold the baby. And like, it was just she was such a godsend. And honestly, she's become like a part of our family in a way that we, invite her to birthday parties. And she's just such a important part of my journey. And she was there. So it's like my nurse, my midwife, my doula, my husband, my toddler, like we're all at the house. And I just felt over the moon, feeling so loved and so taken care of by my team that I was just like so excited. And maybe it was the oxytocin, but honestly, labor it was about 5:00 that everyone got to our house PM. And they started just getting the room ready and blowing up my pool, my birth pool, setting all those things up, as they do. And that's one reason that I love to have a home birth personally. I feel very safe in my home. I feel very cared for. I love that my whole birth team is people that I know and that I feel really comfortable. And they also just take care of everything. Like literally they're doing laundry, they're giving me snacks, they're getting me drinks, they're rubbing my back. Like I just literally feel like I'm at pregnancy spa or something, birth spa. So labor's consistent. I'm really consistent in total it was 5 hours. And during these 5 hours, it was from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. that everything was consistent. But I kept feeling like he just wasn't engaging in my pelvis. I kept feeling like he was still really high. So we were doing some like exercises and movements during contractions to help get him engaged in my pelvis. So we were doing some pelvic tilts. My doula was helping me. I also got in the tub with Dawson, my oldest, which was honestly a core memory for me. We're eating like granola bars. I had prepped like all these snacks and foods, and I had made some protein bars. We're in the tub. He just was so excited to get in with me. So he gets in with me. We're in the tub and he's just swimming around, eating granola bars. He has no idea what's happening. He's just like, oh, these people are at mommy's house and like in mommy and daddy's bathroom. And this is so fun. And he's got a truck in there and we're just like having a ball. And, I'm like feeling like intensity, but not to the level of what I was used to with my first. So I just felt like, man, this is like too good to be true. Honestly, I felt like this is a dream. This is so different from my first because my first birth was so intense for so long. Really like I was dilated. So my midwife checked me and I was dilating and I was great. I was like at 7 and 8, but he wasn't engaging in my pelvis. So it was like he was still pretty high. Come to find out, he was still en call. So he was still in the bag of waters and that hadn't broken yet. So I feel like that was just kind of keeping him a little high in my pelvis. And my contractions were pretty kind of mild. Like they weren't as intense. So I feel like that was also in combination with just the fact that he was still in the bag of waters, that he just wasn't coming down because my contractions weren't like pushing him down enough. And I was like using gravity as much as possible. I was standing a lot of the time. We were trying to really do some pelvic tilts. And there was a couple times where the nurse, Aline, shout out to my birth team again, just obsessed with everyone who was there. She helped with some different exercises, and like I did a side lying movement. I can't remember what it's called, but when you're upside down and you're basically like, it's called spinning babies. Okay. So look up spinning babies because there's all these different movements and exercises that you can do throughout pregnancy, which I did to help the baby be in a good position. But you can also do it in birth to help the baby engage and be in a good position for birth. So it just helps the baby, helps things move along smoothly. And so I'm doing them. That was kind of intense. I kind of hated doing that, but it helped. And then things started to stall. And I was kind of discouraged because I'm like, I want to meet this baby now. I don't want this to go on for forever. My first birth was 16 hours. I was like, everyone tells you that your second is so much faster. What's happening? Like, let's get things moving along. So as things started to stall, it's 10 p.m.-ish, 10, 11, not quite 11, maybe 10, 10:30. And my midwife asked me, do you want us to give you some herbs to help move things along? That's what I love about them too, is just they're so incredibly knowledgeable. And I would call this like an herbal Pitocin. Like it was an herbal tincture that I'm not going to even say what it is because I don't even really know fully. They called it was like labor. I don't know. I can't even remember what it was called. I like feel like I've blacked this part out of my experience, but they gave me an herbal tincture that basically was going to enhance labor. I think that's what it was called. It was labor enhancer tincture. They are the midwives. They put these things together. Like you need to work with a midwife in order to have access to these things. I don't think you can just buy this. So, and you probably want to make sure you're with a provider who knows what they're doing, right? So I consented. I was like, yes, I'll take these herbs because basically my midwife said it like this. She's like, you can take these herbs and we'll probably meet the baby tonight, or we'll just let things go and you'll probably have the baby tomorrow morning. And I was just like, I don't want to have a whole night where I'm up and like, I want to get this done. I just want to have this baby. So I took the herbs and it was like this tiny little shot glass, like maybe a teaspoon of herbs, like not even kidding. There was like some water with it and it was just like a tincture. So it tasted a little bitter. I took the shot. I was like, okay, drank that. And as things were like slowing down, my whole birth team was like, we're going to stay, but I think we're going to go downstairs and let you rest. Because I really said, you know what, I think I just want to sleep. I want to try to rest and sleep this off. And, you know, if labor kicks back up, great. So I take that, I lay down, they check me. They're like, everything's good. Check the baby. Heart rate's great. Everything was great. I'm laying down. And I remember looking at my phone, and I can literally tell you because I can see on my phone when I texted my midwife, because she's like, keep me posted on like what happens, right? So this was the timeline, okay? I had first texted her at 4:20 about labor. They end up coming over at like 5 o'clock. Then I lay down around like 10 o'clock-ish, I would say. It was like 10, 10:30. And then I texted her at 11:22 p.m. because I had a contraction that kicked my butt. Okay, 11:22, I texted her because she was downstairs in my living room. I'm upstairs. They like turned the lights off for me. They put me in bed. They got me cozy. I was like, I'm just going to try to sleep. But 11:22, I'm woken up by this crazy contraction that felt so different from everything else. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Like I think something's happening. But I had a contraction and then I actually waited to see if one more would come because I just wanted to be sure before I texted them to be like, is this really happening? Like, what are we doing here? Sure enough, like 3 minutes later, a huge contraction hits me, my second one, that felt so intense. I'm like, there's no way that this isn't like happening. Like I feel it so strong. So that was at that was at 11:22. My husband's not in the room because he was in another bedroom with our toddler because we still co-sleep, and he wanted my toddler to make sure he was still sleeping, all the things. So I am just by myself, and when they come in, they're like seeing me and they're seeing like how things are going. And they're like, do you want us to go get Kyle? Should we go get him? And I was like, I don't know, because it just felt like it was happening so fast. Like I just remember being like, 1 second I'm texting them. It's 11:22. They come upstairs and they're in my room. And then I'm just starting to have these big contractions. Then my water breaks just a little bit. It was like a little pop as I stood up after those 2 intense contractions. So it was like, it's on the mats on the floor. And I'm like, oh, like there's some water. Okay. Like that's good. They're like, yay, like things are happening. So I remember it just being like, I just went into this cave in my mind. Like I was so in this place by myself because I had to just mentally be so strong because the contractions were so intense and it was happening so fast. Like it was just like one after the other after the other. And I just had like maybe 2 minutes in between to breathe. I don't even remember. It was so intense. It was crazy. And next thing I know, Kyle walks in because they went and got him. He was dead asleep. They wake him up. They bring him in the room. And he comes in and I'm just like, I gravitate towards him. He is just my safe place. He's a rock for me. Like I just wanted to physically have him hold me up. And the way that my room was set up, I was on my bed. But really what's funny is that where I birthed my first, I'd always planned to birth in the tub. I'd planned like a water birth. That never happened with my first. I ended up having him on my bedroom floor in between our bathroom and our bed. And so it was on carpeted area, but there was mats down and all these, what they do. They set up this whole thing, like plastic mats and all this stuff. So I find myself in the same place where I birthed my first. I find myself there and I'm there and I'm like, I want to get in the tub. I want to get in the tub. I was like, I want to get in the water. And I was begging my midwives, can you get me in the tub? The tub had already gotten cold. So in order for them to, and things were just happening so fast. So in order for them to go and heat up the water, or they have to drain it, refill it, all this stuff, we didn't have enough time. And they're like, Erica, it's not happening. And my tub that I have in my home is not deep enough for it to be safe to birth in. So I had an inflated tub in my bathroom. That's where I was planning on giving birth, but it was too late. Like there was not enough time. It was not going to happen. And I was just begging. I was like devastated because I was in honestly in so much pain because my contractions were so intense. And then again, my water broke again. So it was like it broke a little bit before, but then it was like a rush of water. So much water came out. And I instantly felt like a relief because he was still so much in the bag of waters that it was like I was pushing out a boulder. And I only really knew that in retrospect because I look back, I'm like, why did it feel so intense? It was because it was so much that I was trying to push out. Literally felt like a rock, like a huge boulder, like splitting my body in half. So that was a moment of relief. But the way that I was positioned, if you can imagine it, I'm on all fours and I'm holding on to my husband and I kind of am in a lunge. Actually, Aline, my nurse, scooped my one leg up and put me into a lunge. And the way that the mats were on top of my carpet, it was like they were all kind of moving around and almost like I was ice skating. You know those puppy pads that you put down if you have a puppy and the one side's like slippery? Like those were on my carpet directly. Because things happen so fast at this point, it's just what it is what it was. But that made me feel like I was literally ice skating on my carpet. And we didn't want to ruin the carpet. So we have all these pads down, but my legs just kept moving around because I was just trying to get in a position where I felt solid and secure, but I just couldn't find it because of the way all the mats were. So it was just insane. So I'm holding on to my husband with one arm. Then I like loop both arms around his neck. So I'm just basically like hanging onto his neck, hanging onto his arms. I remember hanging onto his shoulders. And I'm hanging on, and with every contraction, I'm pulling down. Like I'm literally pulling on him so hard with all of my strength. And he is holding me up. God bless him. And I just is animalistic. Like I'm groaning, I'm grunting, I'm just like shouting. It was so intense. And I swear to you, this labor enhancer, it worked. Like it worked. Because remember, 11:22, I texted my midwife to come back upstairs. And I would say that when the bag of water is completely released, it was probably about 12, maybe 12:10. So that's like 40 minutes later that happens. Okay. So my bag of waters breaks. I'm holding onto my husband. I'm like literally just with every contraction, pushing as hard as I can, because I just felt it was like he was coming down, but it was like I was wanting the sweet relief of it being over and it being done. And the contractions were so intense. With every contraction, I just worked with my body and I bore down and I bore down and I bore down. He was born at 12:21. Okay. My son was born at 12:21. So it was literally 1 hour later from the time that I had texted that my baby was born. It was like really when they came upstairs, it was like 49 minutes then when they came upstairs, but he was born at 12:21. It was the craziest thing. It was so intense. It was so fast. It felt like I was like a shot out of a cannon. And he was born absolutely perfect, dark head of hair, just a squish. She was born 8 pounds, 1 ounce. Had my husband's thick brows, which I always like imagine my children to have his brows. My husband has like pretty epic brows, eyebrows. You always just imagine what's your baby going to look like. These big feet, big hands. He was pretty long. He wasn't as long as my husband, or I'm sorry, he wasn't as long as my first. My firstborn was born 21 inches. And this little nugget, Waylon, he was born just under 21 inches. So he was like 20 inches and some change. And, you know, you hear the cry, you hear the scream, you know, the baby. And it's like, he's here. He's here. He's absolutely perfect. Every little crevice of his little fingers to his little wrist rolls, his little tiny nose, his perfect ears. He had all this hair on his ears. Like he looked like a little Wolverine. It was so cute. And a good head of hair. And I just remember being like, holy cow, I did it. Like, I can't believe I just did that. It was so insane, so intense. And just everyone in the room, I just remember at the end when I was pushing him out and I was just getting to the end and I could feel him start to crown, I definitely tore a little bit. Ooh, that was rough, but because it just happened so fast. And I pushed so hard because I was just like looking for sweet relief. And I just remember at the end, like my whole birth team being like, you've got this, like literally cheering me on as if I was running a marathon, which I basically was sprinting. Like they were just like cheering me on, like, you're almost there. You've got this. You're doing this. Keep going. You're amazing. Like it was so much encouragement in that room. I just felt like literally lifted up by every single person in the room and just so grateful when it was all over. Like just so grateful. So he was born at 12:21. And with my midwives, they give you like that first hour. They definitely check baby's heart rate. They check mine. They make sure I'm good. I will say birthing the placenta this time was insane. My afterbirth cramps were so bad. It was like labor all over again, except I'm holding a baby. And baby completely latched straight away. So I was like so grateful for that. But I had to at one point give my husband the baby and be like, I need to get this placenta out because it just wasn't coming out. And as soon as I stood up, so they helped me stand. And when I'm telling you, my legs were destroyed. Like I couldn't, because I was like in that lunge position when I birthed him. And since I was in a lunge, I basically ice skating, my legs were so fatigued. They had to basically hold me up. And as soon as I stood up, the placenta just fell out. And it was a really healthy looking placenta. I'm not going to lie. They took a picture of it. I posted a picture of it on Instagram and I don't eat my placenta. So I said, thank you for showing me this. That's awesome. Crazy that I grew an entire organ. You can now throw it away. So they threw it away, disposed of it. And those afterbirth cramps though, like I just remember being like, holy cow, they assessed me. I did have a 1st-degree tear, but did not need stitches. So I'm very grateful for that and was able to just heal with some homeopathy stuff. But I was so sore for literally like a week. Like I'm not even kidding when I tell you I couldn't get out of bed by myself for 5 days. My husband would literally have to physically hold me up, pick me up, and walk me to the bedroom. And yeah, I mean, that was my birth. And now I have these two. At the time of this recording, my little one is 4 months old. So coming up on 5 months, and he is just honestly the chillest, happiest, smiliest baby. He's been that way since day one. He's literally the happiest kid, and I'm very grateful for that. Breastfeeding journey has been amazing. It was really rough for the first 2 weeks, not gonna lie. His latch was super rough, and he was just super chompy. So I worked with an amazing IBCLC, and I also worked with some awesome people for body work. We still go to chiropractic work, and he got some oral work done as well, just to help him relax with his latch and not shred me, which he was totally shredding my nipples, not gonna lie. It was so intense. I had to get like an antibiotic cream for my nipples. It was so crazy, but I was so determined to breastfeed because with my first, we were never able to. And the bottles and all of that, honestly, for me, just like it just wasn't what I wanted. And I wanted the ease of being able to just nurse on the go wherever. And we were able to do that. And it's been so special. And this kid is like honestly a dream. He sleeps so great right next to mama every single night. We snuggle, and he's just the cutest kid with these big eyes and dark brows and chunky cheeks. And he's like, we've, gone to our holistic pediatrician a couple times since he's been born, just for checkups and stuff. They basically just weigh him and measure his noggin. And he's like 70th, 80th percentile, 90th percentile. It's kind of been back and forth, but he's definitely a chunker. And it's just the coolest thing. And now I'm a mom of two. And I'm literally, as I'm recording this, I'm looking at these pictures of him. I'm looking at the early days and just remembering this sweet little boy. And it was cool because, he was born on August 5th, which is a very hot time of year here in Tennessee. But that just allowed us to get a lot of outdoor time with him. And that was a lot of sunshine that he was able to get right away. My first was jaundice. So I wanted to make sure right away that we were able to get out in the sun. We were able to get him to pass all that bilirubin because I did not want to have another jaundice baby and have to go into the hospital. That was a whole thing with my first that was very traumatic. So we spent so much time outside, lots of milkies, lots of cuddles, lots of skin to skin, lots of sunshine for both of us. And that was just honestly really dreamy. I think I prefer that over a winter baby. And my husband and I both are blood type O. So that makes our children more predisposed to jaundice. Come to find out, did not learn that until this year. So that's just something that I'm going to be aware of for future kids. And, we were able to have him in the summer. That was honestly really nice. But there was definitely hot days, so we were very mindful of how much sun he got and, all the things, obviously, duh. But that's it. So now as a mom of two, I'm, it's, you definitely are learning. You're definitely don't know what you don't know until you know. And it's just, he's kind of like just seamlessly like become a part of our family. I think the hardest transition was for my toddler because he went from being the center of our world to now he shares attention with his little baby brother who needs a lot more attention from mommy right now in this stage, which has been really hard. I think there was a definite week in the beginning where I just grieved and I felt very emotional about it not being just all about him. And when I was up in bed, on bed rest, he would come up and be like, mommy, come downstairs and let's play, mommy. And I just felt so heartbroken because he just didn't understand. He's almost 3, but he doesn't get it. He just wants mommy to play with him and he wanted to be with me. And just not being able to do that was really hard. But, the time passes and it gets easier every day in a way. And also it's just parenting. So it's challenging, right? Everything is a lesson. Everything is a new thing every day until you learn it. And then there's another thing you have to learn the next day. So it's just crazy, but just very, very, very grateful for 2 healthy babies, healthy boys. Boy mom world is crazy, but it's so sweet and it's so amazing. And I feel like I'm in this stage right now where I never want it to end. Like I never want this age of my second, the baby, to end. I just love the cuddles. I love just how attached he is to mama right now and just being able to snuggle him so much. And it's just like time is crazy. What is time? Like I'm literally sitting here looking at these pictures. I'm like looking back August 17th. I have pictures. We got a newborn session in with one of my best friends who's an amazing photographer here in Nashville, Joanna Morris. And I'm just looking at these pictures. I'm like, this was yesterday. Like how is he already almost 5 months old. Like it just goes so fast. For me, it took me definitely, a little bit to recover, but I started working out again at 6 weeks postpartum, really doing a ton for my pelvic floor, especially because of tearing and everything, really taking it easy on getting back into it. But I feel pretty great and, still have some pounds to lose and all the things, just as you do with pregnancy and postpartum and all the things, but it's like I'm only 4 months postpartum. So just taking it one day at a time and just so grateful. So yeah, if you are listening to this and you want to have a home birth, I will say that there was a moment in my my labor that I was like, I get it. I understand why people have epidurals. I understand. This is insane. This is so crazy. It was happening so fast and was so intense that I was like, what am I doing? This is insane. And I had a moment where I was like, I don't think I can do this. I don't think I can do this. I have to get in the tub, get me in the tub. And my midwife had to get in my face, which I'm the type of person who needs this as an athlete, someone who loves to be coached and loves like direct communication. She had to get in my face at one point and she was like, Erica, you've done this before. You're going to do it again. You've got this. You got to kind of like get your head in the game because you're going to meet your baby. We got to go. Let's go. I was like, all right, let's go. And honestly, I needed that because it was after she kind of got me collected that I think the baby was born. Waylon was maybe born 15 minutes later or something like that. It just went so fast. So I hope the story inspires you. And, I think it's crazy because it's like I did it. And I remember being so fresh postpartum, being like, I'm never doing that again. And now I'm like, I will totally do that again. Like just, it's sickening. It's crazy how we'll just keep having babies. I will definitely want more babies. Being a mom is the coolest thing ever. And these little ones, I just are truly a gift, truly a treasure. So thanks for listening to this episode, this very different episode, but hopefully insightful, hopefully inspiring, whatever you want to call it. If you love the show, let me know. Subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Love you. Thanks so much for listening to this very personal story. Mamas, you're superheroes. It doesn't matter how you bring your babies into the world, whether it's a home birth, it's an epidural birth, it's a C-section, you're all heroes. And these little ones, man, they fight so hard to get here. They are little warriors. And it's such a miracle from God. I'm truly just so grateful. So I'll see you next time.